and welcome to another episode of Pet Pals. I'm Bethany Davidson, the Humane Educator here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. Animal wrangling for us today, as always, is our volunteer coordinator, Sean Snyder. A little bit easier task with the first set of dogs. Weighing about less than 10 pounds collectively, we have one of our two bonded pairs on the adoption floor right now. These guys are going to be Millie and Minnie. So to identify them, Millie is the larger of the two. She's in the little mauve turtleneck sweater. And then Minnie is the smaller of the two in the pink cable knit. And they are a bonded pair. They have to be adopted together. And they basically want to do this 24/7. All they want to do is sit in your lap and lick your face and be lavished with attention. They're a relatively young pair of dogs. They're only 2 years old. So they still have a long life ahead of them. They're very easy to kind of handle and deal with. We didn't have any problems handling their feet, their mouth. They walk fairly nicely, as I've been told, but they, as most small dogs do, they kind of prefer to be carried around and cuddled. They can be a little bit fearful of loud noises. When we moved them onto the adoption floor, the kennel was, visitors were here and all the dogs were barking, and you could tell that they were a little bit uneasy about all of the noise and things like that, but after a few minutes they kind of calmed down, and especially if someone's around to kind of give them that support. There's no restrictions on who can adopt them. The only restriction is that they must be adopted together.
So you mentioned that they are a bonded pair. What led us to that decision?
So different things can make those determinations. With them, they have always lived together, so that's one of the things that we take into consideration. They are as we've been told, litter mates who have always lived together. And then we look at how they rely on each other for emotional support. When they're really nervous, they cling to each other, they seek each other out. When they're separated, they feel less comfortable. You can see their body language and their temperaments kind of change when they're alone. That helps us determine whether or not any set of animals, whether they're dogs or cats, should be adopted as a bonded pair.
They were recently shaved down also. Why did we do that?
So recently we've had quite a few small dogs come in, and one of the common problems with small dogs is, unfortunately, people are not providing them with the proper grooming maintenance on these long-haired dogs, and then they get very matted. So these guys were not as matted as some, like Brussels Sprout and a Piccolo, who have been on the floor recently, but they had just some lots of stuff stuck in their fur, and were kind of grimy and gross and matted. So want to make sure that anybody who's adopting these dogs, or any of the other long-haired dogs that end up on our adoption floor, that you're providing them with the proper grooming maintenance. They need to be brushed, they need to be groomed, they need to be bathed a little bit more frequently than a short-haired dog like most of, say, our traditional pit bull mixes and things like that. So you just want to make sure that you're fully prepared for that part of the upkeep, but also the financial requirement of getting them groomed and things like that properly. If you are willing to take both of these guys on and make them part of your family, the first step is going to be to make an appointment to visit, and you can do that by going to visit fcac.as.me. Our next guest may look familiar to people who are frequently on our Facebook page and visiting to the shelter. This is Luna. She was previously a resident here when we called her Miss Piggy. I still call her Piggy. She responds to it. And she came back with a few more skin rolls, if you will. So Piggy is still a little bit fitting for her. And she loves a good treat. She's about a 3-year-old Shar-Pei mix, and she is a dog that is always right at the front of her kennel. She's very friendly. She loves it when you give her a treat. She's very playful. She's now known for stealing all the toys on her way out on her walk. If another dog has a toy that's hanging halfway out the kennel, especially if it's a soft toy, she snags it on her way out and she carries it all the way with her through her walk and then brings it back into her kennel as it's her own. She loves to go shopping through the toy bins. So if you're looking for a dog that's going to enjoy playing with the toy, you like to play with toys with your dogs, play fetch and tug and all of those types of things, then Luna would definitely be a good match for you. She does have some issues as a Shar-Pei. You have to make sure that her all the wrinkles and stuff in her skin folds are staying nice and clean. She did come to us with a little bit of a skin situation, so we treated that. We don't know if it was flea dermatitis or something else, but just keeping an eye on those things, making sure she's getting her regular vet checks is going to be really important.
So you mentioned that she was a return to shelter. Why did her own return her?
So in October, Luna was adopted by somebody who was a a previous Shar-Pei owner, and during just the standard meet and greet here in our facility, she did okay with their small children. It wasn't an issue. She was very good with them. But then as she was in the home environment, the young kids were just a little bit too much for Luna. When Luna was here was the first time, she was very nervous in new situations or with loud noises and things like that. And I think, that probably played a role. Younger kids tend to make more noise. They run around. There's fast movements. So when Luna came back, we obviously reprocessed her for adoption like we do all of the animals. And we decided that given that history, it would be better for her to live in a house with older kids. So we're looking for adult home only or 16 and up. So she doesn't have to worry about, those noises and fast movements. And people are just going to be more able to understand her boundaries and her feelings and just make sure that we're all getting along a little bit more peacefully, so everybody's happy. But we think she's a great dog. The volunteers walk her without any issue, so hopefully she'll be in a forever home here relatively quickly. If you think that Luna is going to be a good fit for your household and you meet those requirements, you can visit her by making that appointment at visitfcac.as.me. You can also find downloadable applications there so that you can be prepared to adopt the dog of your choice. Our next dog is Chevelle, and Chevelle actually was brought in as a stray by one of our employees on Christmas Day. And she is a hound mix. She's about 1 year old, but she still has plenty of, adolescent puppy energy to her. She does know sit, which is a great thing, and she's got a crazy tail. So if you were going to think about taking Chevelle home, you might want to remove all important items from your coffee table, your end tables, because they might become a casualty of Chevelle's wiggly personality. She is a dog that walks fairly nicely on leash. She's got tons of playful energy, but she can be a little bit nervous around new people and in new places. So that's something that any adopter is going to want to take into consideration. And while she has been relatively quiet here, we do have her down as a hound dog, and as a hound dog, some of them can be a little vocal. They like to bay and express their opinions. So just thinking about that in terms of your living situation, hounds aren't always great in apartments and things like that. Sometimes your neighbors, your landlord might complain about how chatty your dog is or how often they like to sing. So just keeping all of those things in mind, because she can be a little bit nervous and can be a little bit jumpy, we have recommended her for families with children 6 and up, just so that the kids can understand if she's feeling nervous, not to stick hands certain places and give her time to acclimate, but also so that she doesn't jump up, knock kids over and things of that nature.
Like you said, she can be a bit nervous. What can adopters do to make her feel a little bit more comfortable?
Sure. So one of the things that we always tell people is you don't want to make direct eye contact with your with your dogs, because in the dog world that can be like a sign of aggression. It's intimidating. It's a threat. So not making direct eye contact, not staring, but also just getting down to their level. If we're standing up, we're kind of towering over them. That can be really intimidating. So just getting down low, making yourself a little bit smaller so that it's less fear-inducing for the dog. We always have treats around now, so also just giving them treats. Even if you haven't, you're not taking her out yet, you're still waiting for an employee or a volunteer to come get the dog out. We have treat buckets on their kennels, so just kind of starting to treat her so that she starts to understand that you mean something positive. And we always try to provide advice on, this is how this dog behaves, so that those introductions can be as successful as possible. But as she warms up, she seems to be getting less and less nervous. But that is something that you will have to take into consideration when you're bringing her into a new home again, because it's going to be another new place where she's going to have to warm up again as well. Chevelle is going to be a great addition to any household. We do want all of our dog adopters to come in and meet before they decide on which dog they want to make part of their family. You can book an appointment by going to visitfcac.as.me. If you have any questions about Chevelle that you want to get covered before you come in to meet, you can always give us a call at our number, which is 301-600-1546. The final set of dogs that we want to introduce you to is our second bonded pair on the adoption floor right now. They are Bruno and Mars, and they are a little bit of an odd couple. Bruno is going to be our hound mix. He is approximately 11 to 12 years old. He did come in microchipped, so because he was microchipped, we did have to hold these guys longer than our standard 5-day stray period for 10 days. No owners came forward, so we've processed them and made them available for adoption. He's kind of your laid back, steadfast, just wants to sit on the couch, maybe take a nice short walk, chew on his tennis ball, kind of a guy. His best friend over here is Mars. She did not have a microchip, so we, just went with the natural flow of things and named her Mars. She's a 2-year-old pit bull puppy. And she is a little bit more nervous, a little bit more anxious, and she really relies on Bruno for her emotional support. Together, they are a great pair. He's your lazy couch potato. She's your, hiking companion, wants to go play in the yard and do all of those things. But without Bruno, she's very nervous. She definitely doesn't function well when he's not around, especially in new and stressful environments, which is why it's so important for them to stay together. We walk them together. We don't walk them separately or anything like that. But once she warms up and gets to know you, she's just a bundle of energy, and they are great together. They like to cuddle together. They sleep together. And Bruno is very tolerant of all of her playing as she, mouths at his face and steals his toys. And he just kind of takes it in stride and grabs another one and moves on. As a bonded pair, they have to be adopted together. Again, that's really important for the overall emotional health and well-being of Mars. But because you have to adopt 2, you get a $20 discount for that. And you also get a $40 discount because of Bruno's age. So it's really almost like 2 for the price of 1 in terms of our adoption fees with Bruno and Mars.
They are quite the odd couple. How did they arrive at FCAC?
So these guys were found out wandering as strays together. And we put them in the kennel together. We don't really know how they came to be out. It's not something that's unusual for us. We see a lot of dogs wandering as strays together. And usually what happens is one dog's kind of the instigator and gets out, and the other one's like, okay, follow the leader, let's go. And oftentimes the owners come in and they tell us exactly that. They're like, oh, it was this one. He got out and she just follows. But because no one came forward to claim these guys, we don't really know who's the leader and who's the follower, what happened. But they are going to make somebody a great set of pets. Because there's already 2 dogs in the household, you may want to consider, these have to be adopted together. There's going to be 2. How many dogs do you already have? But if you do have an existing dog, it is really important that you bring them in to meet with these guys, make sure that they're going to all get along in the household together. If you're interested in meeting Bruno and Mars, you're going to have to make that appointment, and you can do that by going to visit fcac.as.me. The first cat that we have for you today is Paula Bean. She arrived in the beginning of December when we were naming everything puns. We had Tabby McGuire, Catsy Klein, all of those names, and so she was the first one. She was the one that started the trend in the cat names, and she is about a year old, and she's kind of a cat that gets overlooked because she's not super outgoing. She's a very friendly and affectionate cat, but she's not the cat that's at the front of the cage grabbing for you, meowing at you, knocking over the food bowl and getting your attention. She just kind of likes to do what she's doing right now, just kind of hang out in her bed, look very cute. She enjoys petting, but she can be a little bit nervous. So we are looking for kids 8 and up with her. I just heard like a brief noise, and I could see her like turn her head into her bed and kind of hide. So again, not a lot of loud noises with some older kids who can kind of read the body language a little bit more, respect her boundaries, make her feel a little bit more safe and secure, and understand that she's going to need a little bit of time to warm up and some alone time. She does really love a good cat bed, so her new family should make sure they have plenty of those around. And you can see in there her little lemur, and her little lemur is the cutest thing about her. And one of the things that really sets her apart from the other cats is every time I walk by, she's cuddling with that thing. It was just something that we gave to her just so that she had something in her cage to play with, to chew on, as more of a kicker toy. But she will actually cuddle with it when she's sleeping, or use it as a pillow and a headrest. So it definitely makes her cute. Everybody walks by and they're like, oh, look at that. At least the staff do. But because she's not, as rambunctious and gregarious, some of the visitors miss out on that. But she's up to date on all of her vaccinations, and she's going to make, a great addition to a nice, quiet household.
So you suggested that I carry her up here in her bed. Why was that?
So that's for a couple of reasons. Number one, she is a little bit nervous, so that's going to be something that smells like her, it's familiar to her, it's going to make her feel really safe and secure being transported back and forth. But the primary reason is that she doesn't like to be picked up, and a lot of cat people want to be able to pick up their cat and cuddle their cat, and some cats just don't like it. We've actually noted on her paperwork that she prefers to keep her feet on the ground, and she's not the only one on the adoption floor like that. So it would have been really uncomfortable, not only for her but for you, to have to carry her from her cage up to the ed room if she was squirming and trying to get down. In her bed, she just feels nice and relaxed. She kind of folded up like a taco. You carry her out, and she's content and happy, and she's relaxed here on the show. So those are things that owners can take into consideration and think about as well. Transporting the cat as comfortable as possible, getting them familiar with their cat carriers and all of those things, and just understanding that if you make Paula Bean part of your family, she's not going to be the cat that you pick up and cuddle and carry around the house. She's going to be the cat that's going to jump up and sit next to you on the couch, and that's kind of her preference instead of being moved around by you. If you think that a nice, quiet, relaxed cat is for you, or you're not afraid of a little bit of a shyer cat and getting to know them over time, then you want to check out Paula Bean, and you can do that by making an appointment to visit with her, and you can do that by typing in visitfcac.as.me into your web browser. The last guest that we have for you today is Truffle, and he's one of our handsome black cats. He's about 2 years old, and like many of our animals, he came to us previously owned, but unfortunately he didn't have a name, so we gave him the name Truffle because we're in our vegetable phase right now, so like all those types of things. We also have a radish and an eggplant, a leek, sweet potatoes. We have all of those things hanging out right now, and he's in a cage that makes it maybe easy to miss him, if you will, because he's on a bottom cage and he's a dark color, so it's easy to walk by him and miss him down there. But I always encourage everybody who's coming to look at our cats to look in all of the cages, because we place them in what cages we have available. So you might be missing the cat that's perfect for you just because you're not looking down. He is a lap cat, but he is an active guy. He doesn't want to just sit in one place on your lap. He wants to sit and check that one out, and then he wants to rotate so you can pet him better over here and then get back up and walk around. He's very playful. He's very curious. He has a lot of great qualities. He is 2 years old, so he's still has all of that kind of playfulness, but he's out of that kitten stage. Some people really love the kitten stage. I'm not really a huge fan of it. I like a little bit more relaxed cat. A little bit more about their personality and what you're getting when you get an older cat, so that's also a great thing. And he's just really an entertaining, fun guy, and we're hoping that we can get him into a home as soon as possible.
So he has a sign on his cage that says he's sick. What does that mean, and what's it about?
So you might be able to hear him doing a little bit of wheezing. One of the most common illnesses in the shelter is just a feline upper respiratory infection, and a lot of the cats get it, and it's not necessarily anything that we're doing wrong. It's common in all shelters because you have a large number of cats in one space. So they're in a stressful environment. There's so many smells and noises and unfamiliar people. It's not their home. Their immune systems are a little bit suppressed. And then you have the germ factor of all the visitors and the volunteers coming in. We try to make sure people are cleaning their hands, but people go from cage to cage. They're kind of spreading germs a little bit. So it's not uncommon, for them to get that illness. So we treat it with a cycle typically of 14 days of an antibiotic, and that's the treatment that Truffle is currently on. He's a little sniffly, but he's not super sick, so that's why we were able to keep him out on the adoption floor as opposed to putting him in our sick room where some of the sicker cats go. We always talk to our adopters about the upper respiratory infection so that they know what the symptoms are. They're just sneezing, runny nose, nasal congestion, weepy, watery eye, some of the things that you can probably see just by looking at him right now. But then, like most of the cats, it resolves and they're fine, just like if you or I were to get a cold. But we always want to make sure that even if they've already had it or they haven't had it yet, that all of the adopters know what to look for because of associated incubation periods and things like that. If you're interested in making Truffle part of your home, we'll probably wait to get him neutered until his upper respiratory infection has resolved, so we can make sure that that's nice and safe and healthy for him. But then he would be able to go to his forever home. But of course, you have to meet him first, and the way to do that is by going to visit fcac.as.me. If you have any questions about any of our adoptable animals that you've seen today or our adoption process, you can always give us a call at 301-600-1546. Thanks for watching, and we hope that you'll catch our next episode in 2 weeks.